When you compare, let's say, anything pleasant that has a relative meaning, that which is pleasant to you may not be pleasant to another. That which is unpleasant to you may not be unpleasant to another. Because it all depends upon the individual's ability to create that delusion in him. When you think of a poor man who has had no meal for 4 or 5 days, something to satisfy his stomach will give you the satisfaction for him to be happy, which would not be some wholesome food to a person who is not satisfied with that sort of food. He needs something better. He needs something of a higher grade. When you think of all aspects of life, you see this difference. Depending on experience you have gone through as a human being, a fluent person, he maintains a high grade of pleasantness. It's again a mental delusion. A person who is poor, he is satisfied with something quite ordinary. That is his standard of pleasure. Maybe something that is pleasant to a poor man may be very unpleasant to a rich man. Therefore, there is a big variance in this. It's all relative. There's nothing constant in the grading of pleasantness and unpleasantness. It is how one creates that delusion in the mind. Delusion to consider that as wholesome and consider one as unwholesome. All these are mental creations. Defilements too are mental creations and nothing but mental creations. They are habits which you have created in the mind. Habits have no standard as such. It's what you are used to. Depending upon your temperament, attitude, values, you're used to a certain way of looking at things. Certain standard of acceptance you have created, whereas the standard varies with another. Therefore, the defilements too are just mental creations and nothing else. Habits which you have got used to. Habits which you have created in your mind in the course of birth and death in the samsara. That is why Buddha speaks of 4 foundations of mindfulness to get rid of defilements and attain Nibbana. Mindfulness is one way to get rid of habits. You practice a habit or perform a certain function according to a habit created by you in your absent-mindedness. Maybe there are willful acts too, but now it has planted so well in your mind that you perform the act without knowledge, without awareness. And that maintains the habit. If, on the other hand, if you are mindful and knowing that a certain act which you commit is something adverse to you, something affecting you in an adverse manner, harmful to you, if you can be mindful and avoid that habit of committing that act, you can get rid of that habit. And that is what the Buddha has indirectly indicated in the 4 foundations of mindfulness. Be mindful of body, mindful of feelings, mindful of thoughts, and mindful of Dhamma developing in you. Mindful not to permit the mind to act in the manner which is used to in samsara. but to see realistically the true state of things. When you go on persistently doing that, not allowing the habit to habitually make you to think in the way you are used to, but mindfully asking you to see the realistic aspect of the object, that obstructs the continuity of the habit. When habitually if you don't perform a certain act, the tendency in the habit is to get weaker and weaker and weaker. And finally you will be able to get rid of that habit. On the other hand, if you unmindfully help the habit to continue its activity, then you are promoting that habit. May I say that the secret of your liberation from this cycle of births is to be mindful of all activities. Activities of the body, activities of the mind. In regard to activities of the body, you observe the precepts and keep away from committing things which you are used to. In the way of mindfulness of the thoughts, you don't permit the thoughts to occur as they used to be, and direct the body to perform certain acts habitually. Your mindfulness obstructs that way of life. Constant obstruction, constantly mindfully prompting the mind not to permit such things to occur. And even if they occur, you are not readily accepting that occurrence. Mindfully keeping it away, understanding truly the true nature of the thought that arose. You are discouraging the mind from behaving in a habitual manner. Silencing of the mind, or keep the mind silent, that is the approach you must cultivate. Mindful of the thought that arises. Analyze the value of that thought. Understand that that thought is nothing but the creation of the five aggregates. Five aggregates, which is a mere creation, has no value at all. And having understood the true nature of the thought, you discourage that thought from reacting on you. You dispel the thought. When you go on doing that, the consciousness, little by little, get rid of that habitual performance of creating thoughts. It gets discouraged automatically. And there will be a marked reduction in your thinking. Further, that reduction is helped by your mindfulness. As you are mindfully watching the creation of thoughts, that discourages the mind from acting in a manner which is used to. And there will be a general reduction of your creation of thoughts. It is an effort at the start, effort to observe every thought that arises. And then you overcome that attitude of the mind. Then you carefully analyze every thought that arises as five aggregates and dispel them. That attitude of yours will also discourage the mind from behaving in the normal way of creating thoughts one after the other.